Maybe you've just turned 20 and you're wondering how to make the most of this decade. Or maybe you're partway through your 20s and reflecting on what this decade is doing for you or doing to you. And as a guy turning 40 with a lot of 20-something friends, the truth is a lot of people hit their 20s and immediately feel like they are already behind. There's a kind of weird pressure to figure it all out, your career, your entire personality, your purpose, and you may be putting that pressure on yourself. Or you may feel like others are pressuring you to start nailing down the final answers to who you are and who you'll be for the rest of your life, because by 30, you need to have your stuff together. And even though this is still very early in your life, it's easy to feel like everyone's already ahead of you, even other 20-somethings who have learned to speak very confidently. But good news, your 20s aren't a race. And even if you think that this is your peak decade, it's not. But it is a time to get your mindset in a place that will shape the person that you'll become and start chains of actions that will define success or failure for you later in life. Notice I said chains of actions, not just chain reactions. You shouldn't just react to life happening to you like you're along for the ride. You're still in the driver's seat. You're always in the driver's seat. Never forget that. Okay, now that all sounds a bit dramatic, but it's not hard. You just need to remind yourself of 3 things. Number 1, slow down. Now that my 20s are going on 2 decades behind me, I can honestly tell you that your 20s are not a race, and are certainly not the years where you need to figure everything out or else. Your 20s are where you start testing what kind of life actually fits you. Like life is throwing different roles, different viewpoints at you, different tastes from all different directions, and you're seeing which ones are actually you, even when you is still a fluid concept. And that process takes time, longer than anyone wants to admit and longer than you thought it was going to take when you were 17 wanting to be a 20-something. So in your 20s, you'll try things that do not stick, that do not feel like you, and you will outgrow things. Just like you outgrew your clothes, your toys, and TV shows from your childhood, you're going to outgrow certain tastes, certain people, jobs, even ideas of yourself, even your goals. And it's going to feel like failure at times. And you're going to be like, I thought I had this figured out. And even by 27 or 28, your personality is still evolving. And you might be more like, I'm supposed to have figured this out by now. What you're supposed to know or have figured out by 30, that's all external pressure that comes from society, which is both impersonal and highly unrealistic. So my advice, hurry up and slow down. Give yourself permission to move slower, to move more deliberately through your own life. But you have to let yourself first. If you let yourself move a little slower and notice more, then you learn more. Maybe you've heard about mindfulness. This is mindfulness, taking time to notice. You notice and learn what energizes you, what drains you, what grounds you, what's worth keeping in your life, and what you need to let go of. You hear a lot about life goals during this time of your life. A lot of people will set a bunch of life goals in their 20s that they feel like they're going to work on for the next 10 to 40 years to achieve. I want to have this kind of job, this kind of car. I want this kind of relationship, X amount of money saved or invested. But honestly, goal setting might not be the best use of your time in your 20s. At least that's not all you need to do. 2, focus on action and building habits. Big goals are too easy to make, but too abstract to shape your day-to-day life. You may set as a goal, I want to start my own company. Okay, that's a great goal, but why? You'll spend all of your 20s and 30s and perhaps beyond defining why, because it'll always be a moving target. The goal is easy to set because it fits in a single sentence next to a checkbox, but the why keeps shifting. So take your goal and ask why. Write it down in a journal from time to time. Come back to your journal every 3 to 6 months and see what happens as you move through life. I guarantee you those answers will change. For example, why do you want to start your own business? If you hate your entry-level job, because all jobs in your 20s are entry-level because your life is entry-level, well, if you hate your job or your boss, then the idea of being your own boss and making your own decisions, of course, that's going to be your reason why you want to escape. Now, later, if you get married in your 20s and maybe you start a family, you still want to start your own business, then your reasons for why are going to be different. I want the stability of my current job for my family, but I also want to supplement my income with my own business. I want to see if I could build something for myself, for my family. You don't want escape anymore. At least that's not all that you want. You want independence, you want ownership, you want to be seen by others and see yourself as responsible. Same goal, different reasons. But notice that as time goes on, your goals may naturally evolve from what you want to who you want to be. So it kind of goes from, I want this kind of car, to I want to be responsible. I want to be independent. I want to be a good provider, a good husband. And you'll get there. But it's not just by setting goals and then wishing your way toward them. Instead of setting endless goals in your 20s, what you need to do is focus on repeatable actions and building habits. Because what actually shapes your life are those small, repeatable actions that add up over time. And then before you even know it, those habits help you reach and pass your goals before you even knew what your goals were or why you wanted to reach them in the first place. So the question isn't, what do you want in 5 years? It's what can you do this week and repeat next week and the next week that makes your life a little bit more yours? What are some daily habits that can shape your sense of self? Here are some that I like. Read something that sharpens your mind from a book, an actual paper book, preferably. Learn to cook a new dish. Also, if you don't know by now, learn to cook. It's a life skill. Learn one new skill this week, or at least start learning that skill, a skill that you could be paid for. Learn a new skill just for fun, just for you. Talk to someone that you know is smarter than you. And here's a hint, everyone is smarter than you in some way. Find out what that way is. These are all positive actions that don't take a lot of effort beyond putting down your brain rot device. And these small actions compound into habits that you can have for life. And as the famous saying goes, we are what we repeatedly do. In other words, your habits define who you are, and any of these habits will lead you to your real life goals, and you'll be in a better position to answer why at every stage. The sooner that you can figure that out in your 20s, the happier you'll be with the direction your life takes and more sure of the goals that you choose to chase. Number 3, don't worship or demonize work. Some people, especially here on YouTube, make having a normal job sound like failure, as if true freedom only comes from entrepreneurship or building your own thing. You have to do that from the very beginning. You can't have a regular job. And as someone who has been an entrepreneur, aka self-employed, since 2010, I understand the desire completely. And I have evolved in how I think about it. Because here's the thing, whether you work for yourself or someone else, work in any form can be a teacher if you let it be. A job gives you structure. It shows you how to show up on days that you don't want to. It reveals what you're good at, and maybe more importantly, what you cannot stand, even if you learn what it is that you never want to do again. And at its core, a job gives you things that you need, right? It buys you food. It gives you a roof. It gives you a bit of predictability, which are things that make building anything else possible. So even if you know that the 9-to-5 life is not for you in the long run and you feel born to run your own company, we're still talking about your 20s. Everyone seems to be in a hurry to quit their jobs when nobody in their 20s has spent that long at any job because you haven't even spent that long being alive yet. But even if you must start your own company, you can still use your normal job like scaffolding, right? It's a temporary support while you learn, you save, explore, and you plan your next move. If you're in your 20s, that's not settling, that's strategy. The trick is to stay awake while you do it, right? Don't let routine turn into autopilot and then let your 20s just pass you by. Now, if your job starts to numb you, yes, you can use that discomfort as data for your future decisions, but you don't just assume that every job is a trap. Some jobs, all jobs, are just classrooms in disguise. Your 20s aren't for getting it all right. You can't. It's impossible. Your 20s are for building a foundation. You're learning what feels good for you because you've also tried what doesn't. You're collecting data on yourself that you can use to make informed decisions, bigger decisions later on. So if you can move through this decade with curiosity instead of panic, everything's going to change for you. The stakes are lower. You're going to take the time to notice things about yourself, use it to grow, resist the pressure to lock into a personality that is not fully baked yet. And if all your friends and your peers are 20-something, they're going to give you a lot of advice and you're going to take their advice with a grain of salt, even if they look like they have things figured out. They don't. Because the reality is, at your age, whether they admit it or not, everyone is chasing confidence, clarity, a sense of direction, and it doesn't come from knowing the plan by 29. It comes from living and showing up and failing and getting up and trying again, but paying attention every time. So hurry up and slow down.